Wall Street Journal last year. They call these ephemeral experiences.
What does that mean?
Well, that means, you type in a search term while you're typing, they're flashing some search suggestions at you. Those are very powerful manipulators. And the point is they're just flashing at you, and then they disappear. Then search results appear, and maybe you click on something, and then that disappears. It's ephemeral. It's short-lived. It's not stored anywhere.
Can't get your hands around it.
No. And once it's gone, you can't go back in time and reconstruct it. And they know this. I mean, we know this now from some of the leaks. They understand the power that ephemeral experiences have to shift opinions on anything and to shift voting preferences. 2016, I built the first ever system to preserve ephemeral experiences. And what I was preserving in the months leading up to the presidential election was search results on Google, Bing, and Yahoo, basically by looking over people's shoulders with their permission and capturing that stuff before it disappears. If you don't have monitoring systems in place, all of these ephemeral experiences, they're gone. So the programmers, the executives, they understand how this works full well. But the point is, once these ephemeral experiences have an impact on people, they disappear, and authorities cannot trace them.
2016, Google went full out, if I understand your writings, for Hillary and against Trump. But Trump won. Now, how do you explain that?
Well, I don't think Google or Facebook or these other tech companies actually went full out. I think they held back. There are a number of things that I study now beyond search results, which can also be used to shift opinions and votes, to flip elections. There are many indications that a lot of these techniques were not being used. I think they were overconfident. They were certain that Hillary Clinton would win. I think they were more aggressive in 2018. I have some evidence to support that. And I'm pretty sure in 2020, they will go all out. In other words, they'll use every possible technique.
Now, when you say in 2020 they're going to go all out to defeat Trump and promote whoever the Democrat nominees, all out means like right up into Election Day, pushing these agendas. For example, if they put on their site, as they did in the past, go vote, instead of Google, right? They had go vote. What was that, 2016?
It's 2018.
2018, they'd go vote, and people were praising them, like the League of Women Vote. Wow, look at that. It's a public service. Go vote. You don't think that was a public service at all. Why?
Oh, no, I know for sure it wasn't. I actually published an article in which I included all the calculations showing that this was actually just a vote manipulation. And that's something I'm now studying and understanding better. But the point is that, that would have, let's put it this way. Google knows full well that more Democrats and left-leaning people, like myself, use Google than Republicans do. They know that. They know the exact numbers. So they know that if they present a go vote prompt, they know that's going to have a bigger impact on Democrats than Republicans. And I calculated that one manipulation in 2018 gave at least 800,000 more votes to Democrats than to Republicans. But that's an example of another kind of very, very subtle manipulation, which on its surface doesn't even look like a manipulation. It looks like a public service.
This is fascinating to me. I want to pursue this a little bit more. If Google knows really who's using Google, and they know a lot about each and every one of us, and they know put go vote because we got more Democrats and liberals who use Google than Republicans and conservatives, that means their ability to try and effect the outcome of election is quite scientific. I want to pursue this with you a little bit more. We'll be right back. Dr. Epstein, I want to read another couple of sentences from something you wrote in Politico. In laboratory and online experiments conducted in the United States, we were able to boost the proportion of people who favored any candidate by between 37 and 63% after just one search session. The impact of viewing biased rankings repeatedly over a period of weeks or months would undoubtedly be larger. So this is ubiquitous. And the more they do it, obviously, the more they're able to tip the scale toward one candidate or another, correct?
Yes, and I have no doubt that this is occurring this very moment, but without monitoring systems in place that capture ephemeral experiences, there's no way to know. But I'm sure right now, for example, they're having an impact on who's registering to vote. They're going to impact the way the primaries go. They're going to have a big say in who gets nominated by the Democrats. So they're using this power, at least that's what the whistleblowers and the leaks suggest. They're using this power that I've been studying for a long time now. They're using it. And it's not just on Election Day. They're going to be using it every single day leading up to Election Day.
So you've been doing these studies for some time now. And then these leaks or these whistleblowers come out of Google, and you're going, wait a minute, that's what my studies show.
Actually, what I really say is, I told you so.
Mm-hmm. And so how does the average person who goes on Google defend themselves against this?
Well, first of all, you have to be insane if you're actually using Google.com. You have to be nuts. I mean,
I use Bing personally, but
okay.
That's just me.
All right. Well, I'm saying because, we haven't even talked about the surveillance problem, the massive tracking that's occurring, the censorship problem, and so on. What I'm saying is you shouldn't even be using Google.com. You shouldn't be using Gmail because that's a surveillance tool. You shouldn't be using Chrome. That's another surveillance tool. So, but the point is, what do you say to people who are using these things? You say, look, just the surveillance issue alone should make you think twice about...
But when you go into Google,
yeah.
Let's talk about Google users. People want to use Google. It's a free country, use whatever you want. They want to use Google as a search engine, they go into Google. With the information you're giving us, just be alerted to this fact. But if you're alerted to this fact, that's not the problem. It's the people who maybe aren't watching this show or are unaware that they're being psychologically manipulated, in this sense, being pushed in one direction or another, being fed sort of limited information or biased information and that sort of thing. They used to call this propaganda. Is that a proper word or not?
This goes way beyond propaganda or any kind of manipulation that's ever existed before in human history. For example, you start to type a search term in that box, the search box. In fact, your viewers can do this right now. My research shows two things, and I'm going to tell your viewers how they can test this. My research shows that just by manipulating the suggestions they flash at you as you're typing, we can, in our experiments, turn a 50-50 split among undecided voters into a 90-10 split, with no one having the slightest idea that we've manipulated them. And we're doing this just by manipulating the suggestions we flash. You're being manipulated from the very first character you type. And if you doubt that, type the letter A. Because if you type the letter A, there's a pretty good chance that when those suggestions flash at you, in the first, second, or third position, you're going to see Amazon. You might even see it in two positions or all three, because Amazon is Google's largest advertiser. And Google sends more traffic to Amazon than any other traffic source. These are business partners, and Google wants you to go there. And they're constantly nudging you with these suggestions, and then when they finally show you that list down below, believe me, they know what they're doing. They understand the power that those search suggestions have, the search results, the answer boxes that they're now showing.
So we've gone from a search engine to something much, 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 much bigger than that. And I'll tell you what's odd to me. We know more about ExxonMobil's activities inside and outside that company, what they do day to day. We know more about most major corporations in this country, what they do day to day, and they really don't hide it anymore. We really don't know about these tech companies. We really don't know how Google functions. I watch these hearings, these members of Congress, some of them are kind of, knuckleheads, but some of them are serious people trying to get information. You don't get information. And it's not just Google, it's other companies too, Facebook and so forth. It's as if they have built a cone of secrecy, or that they're bubble corporations and you can't break into what they are doing and how they're manipulating. And so here you are, one guy, maybe with a handful of helpers from the outside, monitoring this, limited budget, limited personnel, and you're able to, because of your background and experience and years of working on this kind of a subject, you're able to find a significant amount of evidence showing the manipulation. I want to pursue this a little more when we get back. Don't forget, folks, to check me out on Levin TV. You can sign up by calling 844-LEVIN-TV, 844-LEVIN-TV, or go to blazetv.com/Mark, blazetv.com/Mark. Oh, and look at this. On freedom of the press. We've sold almost 500,000 copies in all forms of this book. Thank you. We'll be right back. Dr. Robert Epstein. This isn't just happening in the United States, right? It's happening in other countries. You have an election coming up in Israel in like 10 days with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. I take it the same people or groups of people at Google who do not like President Trump probably do not like Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, since they're very supportive of each other. Is there reason to believe they're probably doing the same thing in that election?
They have the ability, they have the power. It's hard to imagine, based on the recent leaks, that they're not exercising that power. The problem, though, is without monitoring systems that are capturing ephemeral experiences, we'll never know.
And the other thing that strikes me as I talk to you is they're having an enormous effect on elections. True?
Correct.
And they're going to go all out in 2020 against Trump. True?
I believe they will.
Based on past performance?
I believe they will, but I'm no longer obsessed with the deliberateness part of it, because even if it's just their algorithm, that shifts
passive-aggressive is still aggressive, right? Okay. So their algorithms are based on 2016. They're anti-Trump.
Their algorithms...
Let me put it, they're not pro-Trump.
It's hard to imagine that their algorithms or their employees are pro-Trump. It's hard to imagine that.
And they can do more in 2020, you said earlier, than they did in 2016.
Oh, yeah. Back then, I was only studying one kind of subtle manipulation. I've identified since then about a dozen, and I'm studying 7 of them right now. So there are a lot of things they can do.
These whistleblowers that you talk about, have any of the whistleblowers said, Google's moving to the right. They're moving conservative. They like Trump. Have you found any of that?
No. In fact, the people that they've been firing or the people who've quit have all been conservatives.
Have you found any information in your monitoring that demonstrates that they're anti-Democrat Party or anti-liberal?
Quite the contrary, no.
Okay. So 2020 could be tough if Google gets away with this, because you're saying they can affect millions and millions of votes, correct? In a close election, that could tip the balance.
Well, I've calculated in 2020 that there are actually about 15 million votes on the line. That's how many votes that could be shifted, possibly, by these very subtle, largely invisible online techniques.
The Federal Election Commission. Whether you believe in these campaign laws or not, they exist. I have a problem with some of them, but there they are, and you got to comply with them. And individuals are limited in how much they can give in a primary, $2,700 max, in a general, $2,700 max, total of $5,400. You have these huge PACs that companies can set up for advocacy purposes. Individuals set up PACs